her, we have one of her current clients, Thomas Drake, who was in the San Diego.
Okay, folks, my chat is lagging.
So. Whistleblower row again.
So we're going to get kicked off with a question for Michael. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with this project, and also, riffing off the closing comments of the last panel, what it's like for someone who made Bolen to Columbine to be a kind of bedfellow in action with libertarians and gun owners, and if this is one of those acts, why this action seems to bring so many people together?
I'm a gun owner. It's actually just a gun that they gave me for free when I opened up the bank account. Actually, never fired the gun. Only President Obama. Well, how did I get involved? Well, I mean, I've been involved in this sort of thing for a very long time. In general, in terms of these issues, I was the chair of the American Civil Liberties Union in Flint. I was 19 or 20 years old. And what Chris said in the last panel here about the corporate coup d'etat, something I've been trying to talk about for a couple of decades since Roger and me, that something was afoot here and that we were going to have our democratic way absconded with. And I agree with him that it has been successful. But I remain an optimist because I know history, and I know that coup d'etats that were successful at first were eventually overthrown. And I just want to use that word, overthrown, here publicly. So this can be replayed at my trial. Should we get that, or? Yeah. We're ordering the pizza.
Silence your phones, please. You can.
Let's ignore it.
Well, I've had to deal with the issue of the police trying to suppress information or to cause harm, or on any of the number of different levels to those who try to bring out the truth. I had a small alternative newspaper in Flint, Michigan, back in the 1970s. Our printer was raided by the police, and they took the printing plates of our newspaper right off the press and searched and seized everything. And it was because we'd done an article on the mayor using federal monies for his campaign re-election. And so he went to a local judge, and the judge approved the search warrant, and they grabbed all of our stuff. So that was one of my first experiences. Now that particular incident along that same year with a CBS affiliate in Boise, Idaho, was also raided by the police. That the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press asked me to work with them, and a law was passed, a shield law was passed the following year to essentially prohibit police raids of newsrooms unless there's an actual crime, like a murder or robbery or something going on. So I don't know. I mean, I can talk about this all night in terms of what my own personal experience has been. What I have learned since in terms of within the Bush administration and what they did or were doing, or how they tried to deal with Fahrenheit 9/11, all the way from official government things to just the sort of propaganda that they put out on me in order to, I could stir the pot of the unhinged, and so I wrote about this in the last book, and the number of not threats but actual assaults or attempted assaults that I've had to go through, up to and including an individual planning to blow up our house in Michigan, and was only caught because one of his weapons went off at his home, and the neighbor heard it and called the cops, and came and they found all the fertilizer bomb stuff, and a small list actually of liberal left people that he'd like to assassinate, with me at the top of the list, and then There was Rosie O'Donnell, Janet Reno, and Hillary Clinton. So I don't know how I ended up on the lesbian list, but I'm happy and proud to be there. It's a joke. Just trying to. Well, anytime I talk about this, it's obviously not a pleasant thing to talk about. So I was very happy to hear about this lawsuit that these guys initiated. And Chris, of course, I've been a huge fan of his for a long time. Please read his books. Pass his books around. This man is he's our 21st century Noam Chomsky. Not that Noam isn't still in the 21st century. And of course, an honor to sit here with Daniel Ellsberg, who I was thinking about the other day. Daniel, I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary Hearts and Minds about the Vietnam War. It's a great documentary. If you have a chance to see it. And they won the Oscar for Best Documentary that year. When they went up on the stage to collect it, they read from a telegram from the North Vietnamese thanking Americans to, which of course, as in these days, we'd never even think of such a thing. It would be like, in the way that things are conflated now, that you would be reading something from Al Qaeda or whatever. But in this movie, Daniel appears in this movie and provides some very important lessons about Vietnam. Not only just what he went through personally, but what this country was led through in terms of the lies that were told, and by not having a press that was active at first to expose the lies, we lost a lot of lives, and we participated in the slaughter of anywhere from 2 to 3 million Southeast Asians. But he said something, and I was thinking about this because they were watching the news on Egypt today, and talking about where the United States, we were for Mubarak, then we were against Mubarak, and it's like, and somebody asked, which side is right? Are we on the right side? And the same question was asked during Vietnam. Were we on the right side or not? Because maybe this was a people's uprising in South Vietnam. And Daniel said, the question is not whether we're on the right side. The only question or point is that we are the wrong side. That's it. We are behind a lot of this madness. Our corporations are benefiting from it greatly, and the people who live in the Flint, Michigans of this world are suffering considerably. So I'm proud to be part of this and be supportive of it. And I've been very supportive of Bradley Manning from the beginning, helping to fund the fight. And I put up some of Julian Assange's bail money.
I think, and we'll get to WikiLeaks and whistleblowing in a minute, of course. Before we do that, I wanted to re-ask my question from the last panel about this drones memo. What's the end game with this, with the lawsuit here? If you win the lawsuit and the administration retains the power to assassinate American citizens, how is that a Pyrrhic victory?
The memo is fascinating to read. Looks like it's written.
Well, they won't release the memos yet.
Yes, well, the white paper.
The pre-memo white paper.
Right, the pre-memo white paper. Because it's so amateurish. It looks like it's written by a first-year law